So, what does it mean to be alive? In other words, how do you know if something is alive or not alive? Living, if it was a living thing, or was never a living thing? Well, the first trait of living things is that a living thing is made of cells. So, everything that's living is made up of these tiny little segments called cells. There are some organisms that are unicellular, meaning they're only made up of one cell. And there are some organisms like you that are multicellular, so they're made up of multiple cells. So many different things are alive and made up of only one cell, but also many different things are alive and made up of trillions and trillions of cells, like humans and elephants and giraffes. Another thing that you can use to tell if something is alive or not is that living things are able to regulate their environment. So this is the fancy science word for it is homeostasis. Homeo means same, stasis means staying. So staying the same. So homeostasis means you can regulate your internal environment. Anything that's alive, again, whether it's one cell or whether it's trillions of cells, if it's alive, it can regulate its internal environment. So if there's too much water, it can get that water out. If there's not enough oxygen, it can get more oxygen in. So they can control what's going on inside of their bodies. The third trait of living things is that all living things can grow and develop. So they're going to start smaller and get bigger. Again, if it's one cell, it starts as a teeny tiny little cell and becomes a much bigger cell. If it's trillions of cells, then it starts as one cell and becomes 2 cells and 4 cells and 8 cells and 16 cells and 32 cells until it then differentiates and goes off and becomes this other bigger organism. So whatever it is, if it's alive, it's going to grow and develop. Number 4, fourth trait of living things. Living things use energy. So in some way, shape, or form, they're going to take in energy and convert it so that they can perform some other function. They might take in that energy in the form of sunlight. They might take in that energy in the form of food that they're going to eat. But they're going to get energy and take it into themselves in some way and then convert it in some way to make it useful for their bodily functions. Trait of living thing number 5. Living things respond to their environment. So think about if you're walking down the street and you see something and you're like, oh, what is it? What is it? Is it alive? Is it dead? What's the first thing somebody says to you? Poke it. Let's poke it and see what happens. And you go get a stick and you poke it to see what happens. Because if it's alive, it's going to react. So living things are going to respond to their environments. Now, you can poke a plant and a plant probably isn't going to react in the way that, a squirrel by the side of the road is going to. But a plant will respond to its environment. So there's this thing called phototropism, which is where a plant will grow toward light. And if the light is always on one side, that plant will grow toward that light. And so if you want to straighten your plant out, you have to turn the pot around so that it'll then grow back toward this way. And so you have to keep turning your pot, or you have to make sure there's light on all sides of your plant. Number 6, there's a universal genetic code. Anything that's alive on this planet is based in a genetic code that is DNA. So you've heard of DNA. I know you've heard of DNA. Every single living thing has DNA in it, and that DNA carries the instructions that tell that organism how to be that organism. So no matter what it is, again, one cell, trillions of cells, elephant or banana, it's got DNA in it. Number 7, reproduction. All living things can reproduce and they can make more of their own kind. So a panda can make baby pandas, coral can make baby coral, sheep can make baby sheeps. A rock cannot make a baby rock because a rock is not alive. Water can't make baby water because water is not alive. So reproduction is our 7th trait of living things. And then number 8. Number 8 is the one, we'll get there. That was my dog Lulu. She wanted to make sure she said hi to you guys. We'll get to evolution. Just hold off on it. Whatever objections maybe you have based on the past, we will talk ultimately about evolution. But you're just going to have to take me at my word for it right now. Anything that's alive as a species is able to change over long periods of time in order to adapt to their environment. So again, we're not saying one individual organism can adapt. We're saying that as a species, over long periods of time, they can adapt and change. So anything that's alive as a species can evolve to adapt and fit better in with its environment, to work better with its environment. Sorry for the bouncy camera. Lulu is climbing all over the place right now. All right, that is it. Those are our traits of living things. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. If you want to know if something's alive, you run through this checklist. It's got to meet all 8 criteria. If it doesn't meet all 8 criteria, it's not alive.